Hey friends, welcome back for more Reddit stories. Today we have Tales from Tech Support stories for you to enjoy, so sit back, relax, and enjoy. Let's go! Never press the shiny red button. System upgrade turns into a robbery in progress. Back again for another tale of insanity and tech woes that dances on the border between stupidly impossible and yet somehow plausible. I was on my way to work tonight and had a pair of cop cars goes flying past me, and it reminded me of this story. This was back in early 2005, 2006-ish. At this time, I have about 8 years of experience under my belt, and I'm pretty confident in what I know and what I don't, and the difference between the two. I've installed, upgraded several network setups and phone systems by this point, and I'm fairly confident I know how to pull cables and remove the old crap that has been dry rotting for years in the ceilings and walls. This particular job was a network upgrade to replace the old network drops and landline phone switch systems and install IP phones, along with a new network switch for the recent fiber upgrade they got. The network closet was a 4x4 graveyard filled with junk systems. 2 old phone punch-down panels, dead battery backups, and the current system I was replacing. This customer was in a small strip mall area that had nice high drop ceilings, so install and removal of the old garbage was fairly easy. Cut the old junk at the top of the wall, yank it back to the closet, cut it up top, pull the loose junk away from the old systems. I get all the old crap off the wall and load it into my vehicle to scrap, recycle, and started pulling the new cables. I got all the new cables pulled and punched down out in the office. I wanted to be out of the customer's way, so I decided to set up the new phones and run cables to the new equipment before finishing the closet. I'm crawling underneath the counters and desk organizing the system cables. My OCD couldn't let the rat nest alone while pulling the new cables through. As I'm under the front counter, I came across a small box with a single red button. What could this be, I wonder? I asked the owner if they knew what this curiosity was, and they said they didn't know. I said it looks like a panic button to call the cops if you were getting robbed, and asked if they had a system like that. To the owner's knowledge, they did not, and I had everything out of the closet and nothing I pulled looked like a system like that. They're usually a wall-mounted metal box that's locked with wires running through metal conduit for protection. I asked if they wanted it left or pulled, and they said pull it, so I unmounted it, yanked the wires back up through the wall, tossed the wire nut on each of the ends to be safe, coiled it up, and zip tied it to a support beam. Obviously, I had to press the big shiny red button before pulling it. It's against the law not to press it. I want to say about 10-15 minutes passed, and I'm currently still under the last station, where the button was, tidying up cables when I hear the familiar sounds of police sirens. My first thought was, that can't be what I think it is. There was no system in the closet. The sirens are getting much louder, so I pop from under the station just in time to see 2 cop cars come screeching to a halt in front of the store. Oh shit, I'm in trouble. Luckily, the owner was much more curious than I was and was already at the front door. She walked outside and one of the officers came over the loudspeaker. "Cop, don't move." Okay. The second cop had gotten out of his vehicle and was standing beside it ready to draw his sidearm. "Cop, who are you? We got a report of robbery in progress at this address." "I'm the owner of this business. There is no robbery going on. Who called you?" At this point, the first officer gets out of his vehicle and approached the owner. Cop 2 still standing at the ready. The cop and owner talk for a few minutes and finally he signals Cop 2 that it's okay. Cop 2 approaches and all 3 come inside. At this point, I want to crawl into my tool bag and hide because I know this happened because of that damn button. Cop 1 explained that an automated system called 911 saying robbery in progress at current address and they needed to take a look around to verify everything was okay. Cop 2 takes a look around as Cop 1 checks with dispatch. Apparently the system was calling every couple of minutes stating the same thing. I explained what most likely happened and asked if it's okay for me to trace the wire I left in the ceiling. By this time, Cop 2 comes back with an all clear and Cop 1 says he will contact dispatch and let them know he's remaining on site till we can find what's making the 911 call. Cop 2 takes off and I start tracing this wire. Thank God for wide tone probes. I scamper back up to the wire, hook up my tone box, and try and see exactly where this wire is going. 2 ladder climbs later, and I find the wire is going next door to another business, thankfully owned by the same owner, but the other business was run by her son. A half a dozen ladder climbs later, I find the wire running to a locked metal box in the ceiling above the network closet in the second business. Thankfully, the key was hanging in the lock. I know, real secure, so I pop it open and hit the kill switch. Cop 1 checks in with dispatch about 5 minutes later, and they say calls have stopped. Thank God. The owner apologized for the trouble, and I do the same. I kept saying sorry the whole time I was tracing the wire. I think the cop was tired of hearing it as he verified with dispatch, asked the owner to sign some paperwork, and took off. The nightmare was over, and I asked the owner what she wanted done with the alarm system. She asked if I knew how it worked and how to reset it. I did not and said it looked like it had been here a while. I could try and find info on it, but no guarantees. She opted to just have me pull it out. As I was removing it, I got curious to what phone line the system was even using, having been hiding in the ceiling for so long. How did it have a live number to use? So I grabbed my handy old-fashioned landline phone and dialed my cell phone. Turns out it was tied into the line her son's business was using as a fax line. The system was plugged into an outlet above the ceiling. I'm guessing this was installed a while back when it was another business was at this location. Turned out the 2 offices were originally one large office and the owner had a wall installed in between. She kept the counters on her side so the button never got found. I replaced all the loose ceiling tiles on both businesses, finished the last station I was under when we got raided. Finished up all the work left in the network closet and called it a day. It was interesting explaining why it took so long to do the call to my boss. I was branded the office criminal for about 3 weeks. Yay. I would rather sleep under my car and face the bears. Sometimes, against our better judgment, we accept money from a customer and quickly regret it. Part of having a successful business is knowing when to say no, but sometimes we fail at that. Things went well with the initial install and training, at least it seemed that way. The trainer said the owner was a little odd and that the general manager quit 2 days into the training, though she didn't know why. But overall, she said the owner and other employees seemed to do well in training and things were running smoothly considering they had to find a new GM and several of the employees were also hired that week and not only had to learn new software, they had to learn everything else needed to operate a hotel. Things only got worse. Within about a month, all of the employees that had been trained had quit and the owner requested another few days of on-site training with his new employees and the new general manager he had hired. During a nighttime training session, they hear a ruckus down a hall and hear a woman yelling for someone to leave them alone. They see the owner, drunk, stumbling down the hallway into the lobby and he leaves. An employee tells our trainer that the owner sometimes hits on a woman in the bar and gets turned down a lot. A couple months go by, nearly every week the owner calls with some sort of crisis that only the software can solve for him. We learn that everyone who had been trained, including the new general manager, has quit, so the owner is on his own again and he is crumbling under the pressure. His calls to us get more and more angry to the point that a couple of times we have to tell him to take a couple of hours to calm down before calling again. We will let a customer vent, but we don't let him personally insult our staff. We don't hear from him for a couple of weeks and then we get a certified letter in the mail from his lawyer. This letter outlines all the ways our software has harmed his business, run off his customers, and cost him hundreds of thousands of dollars in lost revenue. Before he takes this to court, he wants to give us the chance to refund the money he has paid us and reimburse him for lost revenue. One of the admin staff hears it being discussed and asks who the customer is. She googled him and this is where the fun begins. The hotel has a website, but the images are from 1980s and look like they were scanned from old magazine ads. We're talking station wagons with wood trim, wood paneling in the rooms, etc. The trainer that had gone out there twice said that the hotel looks nothing like that now. Another thing that turned up in Google was reviews. Oh, those reviews. We read page after page of reviews from 2 major sites and they were a comedy of failure. The one that sticks out the most, and is still a running joke in office several years later, went something like this. I would rather sleep under my car and face the bears than sleep one more night in this place. There were a couple of themes to these reviews. The first is that the hotel was filthy and never seemed to get cleaned. I'm not sure how many rooms had wet, smelly carpet stains, but there were at least 10 reviews complaining about it. Of course, there were complaints that the hotel pictured on the website, while clean, didn't resemble the current state of the hotel. And finally, the other common theme, the aggressive drunk man that always seemed to be at the front desk or the bar. There were many complaints about him making unwanted advances, following women to their rooms, getting into loud arguments with people, etc. We didn't even bother to consult with our lawyers. We printed out about 25 pages of reviews in color and carefully highlighted the fun bits. We sent a copy of the letter they sent us along with these reviews by the fastest delivery service available and never heard back from the lawyer or the customer. Student impatiently shoved floppy in upside down, destroying the drive and took PC offline. This was way back when I was in college, working in the school computer lab, like back in the late 1980s or was it early 90s. PCs only had 3.5-inch floppy drives. Students have to save homework on them. To check in, they go to the counter. We have a board with little ID pockets for each PC available. Student gives the attendant, me, his or her ID. I slide it to the appropriate station slot. They go to the PC. Our PCs have no storage and boots off the network ROM if you remember that far back. It was project time and the lab is full. Every machine is occupied, even old ones with only 5.25 floppies. I know which student needs which. I sent the students who were only logging into the local mini computer to the 5.25 stations to save the 3.5 stations for the other students doing homework on floppies. I had an entitled student coming up to the counter, slightly surly attitude. I swear I only checked her in minutes before. Me, can I help you? Entitled student, I can't get my floppy out of the computer. I look at the counter, there were like 4 people lined up for stations, but none were available. And I was the only staff on duty. I was a student, the lab supervisor is out to lunch. I got one of the regulars to watch the counter. They can't move IDs, but at least they can tell the students to wait. Then I went to check the station. Sure enough, the disk is jammed tight. The eject button won't bring it out, so I used the tip of a pen cap to prop the slot flap open and look inside. I see a silver thing. If you remember what a 3.5-inch floppy looked like, you can see where this is going. Me, what had happened? Entitled students, well, I put the disk in. And? It won't read and I can't get it out. I already understood what happened. She had shoved the disk in upside down. But I can just hear you exclaim, but that's impossible. It won't go in upside down. And indeed, that won't happen if you're a normal user, but entitled student was not a normal user. She shoved the disk in so hard, the pin that was supposed to prevent this from happening was bent 90 degrees. Remember on the 3.5-inch floppy disk right side up, the top left corner was clipped? That's where the pin was. She broke the pin. I found this later, but I already guessed what had happened. And there's no way to retrieve a disk without taking the PC apart, remove the floppy drive, then remove the cover of the floppy drive to access the disk. The drive is probably fucked. Remember, now 6 people are waiting for PCs and 2 people are trying to check out. Me, I am afraid you'll have to come back later. Entitled student, but I need the disk for my homework. Sorry, nothing I can do. I go back to the counter and checked out the 2 that are leaving and checked in 2 more. The third guy asked, what about that one? Pointed at the one entitled student broke. Yeah, I'm sorry, it's out of order. But she was just using it. Yep, he's been here for a while. Well, she broke it. That guy gave entitled student a death stare, but otherwise did nothing. I took another 15-20 minutes for another machine to open up. I was about to ask that guy for his student ID to check him in when entitled student approached. I was here first. Aren't you going to give me another machine? Me, well, what are you going to do without your disk? Entitled student sputtered. Apparently she forgot about her floppy. Well, can't you lend me one? That guy gave her the death stare again, but entitled student ignored it. Me, no, don't have any. Try the student union, maybe. I got the guys checked in, made another PC available, then checked in the guy behind him. The line is still a couple students deep. Entitled student, well, Well, what? What about my disk? What about it? Aren't you going to get it out for me? Well, I'm not allowed to open up the machines, I'm just a lab assistant. Entitled student stomped her feet and walked out. Me, you've got your ID. She came back, snatched it from my hand, and marched back out. I had to make an out of order sign on the machine and the ID holder board to stop students desperate for machines from asking me why I can't use that one. Though when one of them said he just needs terminal access, I let him get on that machine. We did get her disk out late that day. As I explained earlier, it was shoved in upside down and bent the blocking pin sideways. We had to replace the entire floppy drive. She never came back to reclaim her disk. So that's the story for today's video. If you enjoyed these stories, you can give me a like to support the channel, and otherwise I'll see you in the next story.